Hello, everybody. Welcome to Formicast Live. Welcome, Formicast fans, to another episode of Formicast Podcast, your source for everything ant keeping. Welcome, listeners and viewers, to part 2 of the Easter's panel episode live stream of Formicast Podcast. Here we'll do things a little different on my show. We'll begin first with my normal setup, reviews. Sadly, there hasn't been any new reviews on the channel. However, I do want to shout out yesterday's guests for showing up yesterday. Ants Manitoba, thank you so much for showing up yesterday. Aesthetic Ants, thank you so much. Ryan from Antscapes, thank you for coming over yesterday and hanging out. Urban Ant Keeper, thank you so much. And of course, Ants Britannia, thank you so much for coming yesterday and talking to the listeners. And I would like to introduce my guinea pigs for today. First, I would like to introduce my guest from across the pond, the colonialist. Say hi, bud.
Hey everyone, how you going? Thank you for joining us.
All right, and I would like to also introduce my second-time guest on the show, Ant Hollifer. Say hi, bud.
Hello, hello. How's everyone doing?
And I would also like to introduce KB Ants. Say hi.
Hello, everyone.
And I would also like to introduce Hood. Say hi.
Hello, ladies and gents. Hello.
And last but not least, Lights, Camera, Ants. Say hi.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the live.
All right. And we got a lot of people in our actual live stream right now in the chat. We got Josh Milner. We got Ants Jr., Ants Norway. We got KB Ants. We got Island Ants. We got, Ants UK, Island Ants. We have Ants Norway. And we got probably more people coming as well. It also looks like Gooseberry Leaf also is here. Thank you for everybody for hanging out with us in the YouTube chat. So before we begin, I would like to open up with a question. Feel free to answer when you feel led, or I will call on you individually. The question I want to know is, why are you an ant keeper? What brought you to this hobby? Why don't we start with Ant Hollifer? We'll start at the top of the list.
Of course, it's gotta be me.
Of course.
Well, I'm pretty boring and pretty basic. Also, like some of the people from the Easter Special Part 1 yesterday. I think I was playing some games on my PlayStation or Xbox 360 or something when Ant's Canada video popped up. Started watching that. Started watching a lot of his videos and starting to get a knowledge that this was a general hobby. And slowly but surely, I just found more and more YouTubers and realized I wanted a queen ant and start as well. And that's the pretty basic story for all ant keepers. And
Yep.
I'm that basic as well.
You all know my story. Pretty much ended up starting playing video games and then ended up watching Ants Canada videos, and then that got me into ant keeping. Let's go ahead and go into Hood. Why ant keeping, bud?
Unmuted. Yay. Right, I started pretty much the same as everybody else. I used to watch the Pimple Doctor squeezing spots and pimples and zits and all sorts of gross things.
That's
and I got
gross.
bored of it, so I started looking at, I thought, because I've always had an interest in ants from a little kid, I decided to look at ant videos, and yet again, I came across Ant Canada. Watched that for about a year or so, moved on to other YouTubers, but didn't really have an interest in collecting ants myself. Then I was walking the pooch, and it was a nuptial flights, and I was seeing queens running around everywhere. So then I picked up some Niger queens, and it went from there. I started off a couple of Niger queens, went about 2 years for that one, and then it was like, well, they keep hibernating, and it's boring. So I want some tropical ants. So I got some tropical ants, and then it escalated, and now I've got more colonies I know what to do with.
All right. Let's go into KB Ants. Why are you an ant keeper? What got you sparked into that interest?
It's a long story, but I'll try and keep it short. So basically, from when I was a kid, probably about 6 years old, I was always interested in insects. I think firstly I was interested in spiders, and then one day I was looking at the grass on my garden, and I saw a Lassius niger colony raiding Lassius flavus colony, and ever since that moment I was hooked and really interested in ants. And then the thing that did it for me was I saw a nuptial flight, and it just amazed me. All the queens flying around, and ever since then I've just been in love with ant keeping, and that's basically how I started, really.
Very cool. Lights, camera, ants. Why are you an ant keeper?
Honestly, can you guys hear me well?
Yep, can hear you loud and clear.
Alrighty. Yeah, so I started back in 7th grade. I ran across an Ants Canada video, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, you can catch queen ants. And then, yeah, I caught my first queen ant. It was Solenopsis invicta. First year of ant keeping was actually a bust. It really didn't work out well. I tried catching Phaedoli. I caught a Phaedoli queen at the end of the year, but I ended up inbreeding her with another, like the same species, but they were from the same nest, and so it didn't work out. Second year was a little bit more successful, and I think, yeah, that's when I started YouTubing and other content creation. So, but why do I keep ants? I kind of like the, what do you call it? The environment that it is, like going outside, catching ants, and doing it every year is also really fun.
Yeah.
It's something that I can also relate with other people too, like you guys. I get to talk to you guys about it, and there's a lot more other people that like ants and other invertebrates like I do. So it's really fun. It's another hobby I can do, and it's always good to talk to other people about it and see their reactions because it's always something different.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's probably one of my favorite things about last year when I started ant keeping was just going outside with some Snapchat files and just looking around, seeing if I can find any queens. I think Labor Day I caught like 15 to 20 Lasius queens just like walking around. I have like 12 that are still alive with eggs now. I probably lost like a couple since then, but yeah, Colonialist, why are you an ant keeper?
Well, I'd love to say that my start into the journey was a beautiful one, where I went out and appreciated ants straight away. But actually, when I started getting interested in ants, I was a young boy. It was before the internet, so I'm showing my age a little bit. At this point in life, you was kind of kicked outside as a child with a magnifying glass, and like most kids, I got into burning things with a magnifying glass, and I used to sort of chase ants around with the magnifying glass. But that evolved. I started to feel bad about what I was doing. I wanted to learn more about them. I went to the library. I couldn't find any books on them, and there's nothing to sort of really learn at the time. So I learned about nuptial flights because we had a massive Lasius niger colony in the garden.
Oof.
And when they started flying, and I realized they were queens, I basically spent a whole year collecting up jam jars, and I dragged my mum out into the garden, and I sort of enslaved her into helping me collect up 1 billion queen ants, and sort of that's how I started my journey, and I continued that probably till I was about sort of 15. And again, I hadn't really, it was all sort of trial and error, so like I made so many mistakes where I didn't know how to bioactivate the soil and stuff like that, and I was losing colonies, and I had one successful colony, and it was actually in what was a gel farm, but of course, even as a kid, I looked at the gel and I was like, this is going to kill the ants. So I dumped out the gel, filled it with soil, and that at the time was my sort of most successful ant colony. And then life took over. I grew up, sort of had a job, and then years later, I was speaking to someone, and they were saying, yeah, you can buy ants on the internet now. So I was like, what? My world just exploded. So I jumped online, I looked around, and I started watching sort of like popular YouTubers. Actually, Ants Australia was the first YouTuber that I saw, and then sort of found Ants Canada and spent a few months watching that. Got a Lasius niger colony, and then sort of started my journey with tropical ant keeping when I was offered a Mesobarbarus colony, which are widely sold and sort of kept in the UK, even though they're sort of native to Europe. And at the time, sort of watching so much Ants Canada, I was like, yeah, native keeping, I'm gonna go that way. But the moment I stepped into exotic keeping, my life changed and my channel started.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And not only did your channel start, but you also started a podcast, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and that's like sort of as I was going through the community, I sort of felt a bit isolated.
Hmm.
I've got no one to talk to about it. I have to keep my hobby quite secret because of the job I do. If
Hmm.
anything about your character is thrown into question or anything like that, it can be a career killer.
Yeah.
So I have to be sort of quite quiet about it, which is why I don't sort of post up my face too much and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
keep myself pretty hidden
It's
and
okay,
hide behind my
JB.
logo.
I'm here for you. I'll
I
talk
know,
trash
bro.
about
I
you.
know. And
It's fine.
so it started out of the sort of thing that we keep communal insects, and I wanted to get sort of content creators together to
Hmm.
form a community because I've sort of found like I was approaching people and speaking to them, and at first it was kind of like, oh, who are you? I'm not interested, kind of thing, and then sort of as got to know people a lot better, formed a little group and other people sort of interested in getting involved, and it just sort of evolved from an idea that I wanted to get people together, and
Yeah.
that's where we are. We started with the four people who got in. You got Hood, Alex, and Jake, who's got My Living World Ants.
Yep.
He's got quite a big YouTube channel, so
Hmm.
yeah, he wanted to get involved, and he actually had the he edited the first episode for us, so um, he had more of the technological knowledge
Hmm.
to achieve what I wanted to do, and sort of together we just formed it. Really, it's
Yeah.
just from that, yeah.
Yeah. So before we go into this, kind of segue into the next question was like, do you talk openly about your hobby to friends and family and stuff? But I have to blame Aesthetic Ants because I took a break from the podcast. I took a break from ant keeping for the winter because my ants are going to be hibernating. And when I got back and was prepping for the show, Aesthetic Ants was like, "Hey, while you were gone, like a couple more podcasts showed up." So I was like, "Huh, interesting." So I started like looking stuff up, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I know these guys." So like, I kind of reached out to Aunt Hollifer and was like, "You started a podcast? That's cool." Like, so I started listening to the episode. You guys are a little bit more detailed and more knowledgeable when it comes to the actual hobby, which is pretty cool. So I've been learning a lot from you guys, which is pretty sweet. Um, but I basically want to ask you guys, like, what is your plan for the show? Is there something I can do as a podcast host to help you guys on the technical side? Or is there something I can do to help you guys in general? But I kind of want to know, like, I know that bringing the community together like we're doing right now is amazing, and we brought people over from different walks of life yesterday to do the same thing we're doing right now. But like, how can I help? Like, how can the community help?
I think our problem right now is mainly just that it takes a lot of time to edit podcasts, and I think that's why episode 3 never or is still
Well,
currently on hold.
yeah, sadly, that was my fault because I used the bot Craig, and
Yep.
Craig sent me 4 files, and these 4 files were us individually, like our own audio strips,
Yeah.
and I tried in Audacity to put them together. I couldn't line them up, and so I've paid someone on Fiverr now who sent me the the file yesterday. So now I have it all 4 into one audio strip, so I can start to edit it.
Mm-hmm.
But on that sense, when I've got the 4 individual files, I haven't figured out how to use Audacity to put them all together yet. So that's where the slowdown has been on the podcast. Is kind of just an editing hitch, as well as I was working 2 jobs. I took on another temporary task at the time, which is in support of what's going on at the moment in the world with COVID. So it was kind of like regional management of sorting out all the teams that are out in place doing that.
Yep.
And then I got hit with a stack of paperwork that could probably match something the size of Mount Everest. So I had to work my way through that and went a little bit quiet, which is why I had a month gap from my channel as well. So all of that sort of like squared away.
Yep. So Island Ants wants to know what the podcast is called.
Well, it's the Colonial Antcast.
Yep. Aunt Hollifer just replied at the same time. And Happy Ant UK says, I'm waiting on episode 3. I am also waiting on episode 3.
Well, in the next few days, we should have some good news.
Sweet. Yeah, hit me up if you ever have issues with with Craig. I normally don't use Craig anymore, to be honest. Either I use Zoom, but we were talking yesterday in private message how like Zoom will cut you off if it's like
Yeah, it gives you like a 40-minute window, and then they want to
yeah.
extend the time.
So what
Yeah, we used Zoom on the first 2 podcasts, and on the second one, the first one was the 3 trial, but on the second one we stopped
yeah
3 times, I think, to start over and start recording because our
and
free
then
trial had
again, we
ended.
had the problem there of putting those 3 together.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
actually, what I had to do was I had to then put it onto my phone, put it into Power Director,
oh gosh
add a video to it,
yeah
and then
it's a
strip
mess.
the audio off the video to put it all into one long podcast. Because when I put it up first, we only had the first section. Even though the other 2 blocks of audio were in there, they just weren't playing. So
Yeah.
I had to like delete it and upload it several times, trying to figure out what was going wrong.
Yeah.
And then that was sort of my workaround to do it, which was quite long-winded, and I'm sure wasn't the way that it's supposed to be done, but it worked.
Yeah, pretty much. When Sulior and I do our Nintendo podcast called Nintendo, if anybody likes Nintendo gaming, definitely ask me and I can send you guys a link. But whenever we do our show every other week, we normally do Zoom, and we do like for us for some reason it lets us to record as long as our episodes are. They're normally between 45 and an hour. I cover the news, so what we do is we use Zoom and we record it, but we have it so that we can watch each other talking. And we can tell when like you're about to finish your sentence, and then you take that pause, and you can tell when the other person's about to talk. It really helps.
Yeah.
For everybody that is watching right now and listening later on, yes, Nintendo is lit. Basically, what we're doing right now is I'm using Streamlabs OBS to record. So I've been recording before the even show has been starting. So everything we've said before the show started is recorded. However, I can take it. Took me like, I don't know, like 20 to 30 minutes yesterday to figure out how to take it. But when you record it from Streamlabs, just hitting record, not going live, it saves it to your PC. And then you can take that and you can transfer it from MP4 to MP3, and you can toss it onto Audacity and then cut out parts that you need to cut out. Yesterday, I think I cut out like probably 20 minutes of just blankness and like waiting for people to ask questions.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of what takes the time on editing
Yeah.
our podcast as well, is those gaps between, and also where we go off track and just start talking about random stuff,
Right.
and then we have to cut out like 30 minutes of chat just to bring it back to the actual podcast.
Yeah.
The problem is also if you're editing a podcast that is 3 hours long,
Right.
you have to watch all 3 hours to,
Yeah, condense
to
it
hear
down to
all
an
the good
hour.
stuff.
Yep. But so let's go back toward the actual what we're actually talking about. So you were talking about the colonialist, how like talking to people about the hobby has been it was kind of difficult for you. But do you openly talk to people about your hobby, or friends or people at work
So,
about your
I mean,
reaction?
some of my friends, which have been friends from sort of childhood or stuff like that,
Yep.
discovered the channel.
Yep.
And were like, I didn't know you were doing this, and I kind of like, when they find out, I'm like, yeah, it's my secret hobby. But they understand with my career that because of the nature of my career, it could be damaging to my clients. In a sense, someone could put a spin on it that could be seen as damaging to them or anything like that. And it's kind of like, because of that, I have to just sort of be careful about what I do. Whereas sort of the YouTube and hiding behind sort of the logo and stuff like that, it allows me to express myself, and hopefully no one on my career side of stuff will pick up on it. Like,
Right.
even the Facebook page I've got is separate to my work profile page. So like I keep everything as sort of segmented as possible. And sadly, like with the career that I do, it's kind of, you sacrifice a lot in your life just to be able to continue in this career.
Right. Aunt Hollifer, how do people react when you tell them you're an ant keeper?
Most of them start well. The people I work with, we have a pretty joking relationships. So I think all my people started knowing I kept ants after I saying, "Hey, it's a good day to catch queen ants," and then they're like, "Ah," and then I kind of explain the hobby and
Yeah.
that I make YouTube videos. But most of my friends or the colleagues I have and the general people I know think it's an interesting hobby, though I think all of them secretly also hate ants. But I also a bit like we talked yesterday that I don't really know any people that think it's like weird that I keep ants. They just
Yeah.
like think, well, good for you.
Yeah.
I'll watch it all from a distance.
Yeah.
But
same.
but the opposite to JB, I'm pretty open to the whole ant keeping side.
Yeah.
I don't really talk about it except if people talk to me about it.
Yeah.
So like I don't say I'm an ant keeper before I get into the topic of nuptial flight and all that, but I don't keep it a secret or anything.
Yep. Hood, what about you, man? Like, what normally happens when you talk about the hobby to your friends and stuff?
Well, I don't care what people think, to be honest. You can make your own opinions. I really don't care. But what I have found is people are a bit standoffish at first, like ants, because some people take the Mickey, or try and take the Mickey. I'm not sure if you use that term in America, but it means like make fun of it. But I just own it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm a YouTuber. I'll keep ants. But everybody kind of like takes the Mickey, but then they're like, so how did you get into that? So what's that entail? And then they start asking questions. And believe it or not, people are actually more interested in what they make out. So like I said, I generally don't care what people think. You can take me as I am. If you like me or hate me, I just don't care. So it's up to them if they want to accept the fact I keep ants or not. And I'll openly talk about it. I just don't get an opportunity to express myself about my ants. And that's why I started my YouTube channel, so I could just talk about my ants. I don't get that opportunity with my jobs.
Yep. That's what I love about you. You're blunt and honest. I love it. KB Ants, what about you, man?
I'm sort of in the same boat as Ant Hollifer. The line of work I'm in, I work as an electrician, and it's sort of like a manly environment. So when I tell my colleagues, they normally joke about it, but then eventually they seem interested, and they're asking me questions, and obviously they find out about my YouTube channel, so they watch that and they're like, oh, it's actually quite interesting. So yeah, it's one of the main reasons why I started my YouTube channel is because so I can express myself through the YouTube channel, because obviously I like talking about it. But yeah, it's sort of the same as Ant Hollifer. Most people are quite good with it, so I'm quite open.
That's awesome. Lights, camera, ants. What do people say when you tell them you're an ant keeper?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty open about it. I tell almost everybody that I meet, and it's just like, so it's like a heads up that, hey, I do keep ants. If you want to like learn more about it, like I've tried getting people into the hobby a couple times. It's worked with a couple of friends. They seem pretty interested in it. But most of the time it's their parents that don't allow them to keep the ants itself.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm pretty open about it. I accept the fact that I like keeping ants as pets and stuff. And I just love the ability to film ants, especially now that tech is getting, what do you call it? It's upgrading every year and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you get to zoom in closer and see what you didn't see before the last time you saw it. It's also opened up a lot of opportunities for me, and so it's really exciting. The keeping ants itself and content creation in general. But yeah, no, I'm pretty open about it. However, I don't tell a lot of people. I used to when I was in I started 8th grade summer. So going into high school, I told people that I did YouTube, and that's just to like boost my YouTube channel. And it worked a little bit, but then like after I started TikTok, I kept quiet about everything, and I like kept to myself.
Yeah.
I didn't really promote my TikTok or anything that much, and I just left it as it was.
How many followers do you have on TikTok now?
It's 1.7 million, so that's pretty.
He has overtaken Ants Canada's
That's
TikTok.
Crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We're sitting with a celebrity, boys.
Yeah, all right. I was gonna ask you a question, but I'll wait until the very end of this part, and then I'll ask you.
Is that for his autograph or not?
No. I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask how he knows Under Ants. Like, is that like you guys know each other in real life, or? Because I know you guys are pretty close, and you guys do another show together. So
we're we haven't met each other in real life. However, we do talk very often on the phone and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, no, me and him, we have a pretty strong relationship and really good friends.
That's cool. Yeah, I would like to get him on the show eventually, but
I'll see if I can convince him for you.
yeah, that'd be great. That'd be sweet. I'm sure a lot of my listeners and everybody else would probably like to hear an interview with him. So we did have a question from KB Ants yesterday. I kind of wanted to ask this, but kind of like, what was the spark? Like, was there something that happened that like you were like, yes, I'm an ant keeper because of this? Like, is there anything specific? Anybody can answer this. Doesn't matter what order. For me, it was probably just playing the game and then just realizing that, you know, there was life underneath the ground and was like, yeah, I definitely want to try this out.
I think my hobbies really started, you know, I had seen Ants Canada and all that. But the one summer day when I saw nuptial flights, I realized, oh, damn, it's actually this easy. And I didn't catch any queens that day because, you know, I had only seen videos. I didn't have any test tubes and all that. But 2 months later, I bought a colony because I just couldn't wait for next year. And that's at least how I got my first colony.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did too with my Tar Heel ants purchase of my harvester ants, which today I've noticed that they are booming in population like crazy. I've noticed that the queen has been laying more and more eggs now, and they've been starting to go into their outworld that I just gave them from Ant Network, and they've been foraging. I gave them a bunch of mealworms, and they gobbled them up and everything, so it's pretty crazy. Does anybody else want to reply to what the spark was, or should we move on to the next question?
Silence.
All right, let's go on to the next question.
I'm mute. There we go.
So the next question was from Hood, targeting colonialist. Why is a colonialist so bold?
I think my hair just got sick of living up north and migrated down south.
Okay. Hood, why are you so fat? Just kidding.
Because I eat too much.
Because you eat too much. Let's see. So we also have a question from Minigun, also from Ants UK. What is your favorite genus and species? Let's start with Ant Holliver.
That's a question that I get so many times a week, almost seems like, and it's such an impossible question to ask or answer because, you know, there's so many crazy species. Like, since I started ant keeping, or before I started ant keeping, I always loved trapjaw ants and how they would, you know, go crazy with their trapjaws. And then I got into the ant keeping community, realized leaf cutters are amazing. I want a leaf cutter colony now, and it keeps like bullet ants are crazy. But to be honest, like I've always said a few times already, I love Flacius niger because they have the perfect size for quick growth, and they have the perfect size for pretty good visibility without a macro lens. Like if you get a Campanota species, it's quite hard, and it's quite slow growth at first, so you kind of lose the interest in the hobby maybe, but you can really see everything that's going on. But if you get a Fidoli colony, it's quite hard to see what's going on, but they grow fast. And that's where, in my eyes, most Lasius species, and in Denmark, Lasius niger, have the perfect like size, both in growing speed and in looking down at them. So I think Lasius niger, the boring answer, but the true answer.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, my favorite species right now is Chromatogaster, or my genus is Chromatogaster. Specific species, I'm not sure yet. But I'll go ahead and hand this off to Hood. What's your favorite species / genus?
I hate this question. I hate it with a passion. Because I change like the wind. Because it's like my Lasius niger's come out of hibernation and have escaped twice. So I've been chasing around with my little keyboard hoover, which has been immense fun, believe it or not. Then I'm like, oh, but wait, I've got my Camponotus nicobarensis. They're like awesome because they're just so big and cool to film, and they're such a massive setup. But wait, I haven't. What about my nodas? My nodas are just like somebody just give them a growth bomb, and they've just exploded in numbers. And yeah, I can't get any of my liquid feeders out because they just swarm it, and it's just too exciting. I'm afraid. I can't tell you. I cannot tell you what my best is because I change like the wind when it comes to my favorite. But I like interesting ants to keep me on my toes. I like that.
Yeah.
Can I pop in with a little extra?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because in general, my favorite ants is the species that I'm recording for my next video. So last week I told everybody I think my favorite species is Lasius flavus, and then I also said, but next week I have to do Lasius niger, so I'll probably change, and I have changed.
Oh.
So like, the species that I'm recording is the species that becomes my favorite species.
That's
And
fun.
I get that. I totally get that, mate.
Because you stare at them for so much, and then you edit the video and keep staring at them, do the voiceover, keep
But then
staring
you
at them.
pick up the personalities.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
when you're filming them, you pick up the personalities of that Connolly, and you get the little twerks and the little twerks is the wrong word because it's not going to be twerking against the wall, is it? But the little, you know what I mean, though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you
Right.
see it, and that's what's great about being a YouTuber because you can fall in love with your Connollies, not just because you're looking after the ants, but you're filming them and you're getting their personalities and you know what they like, what they don't like, you know what, because not all you get a general bracket of environment and ant likes, but sometimes I like it a bit warmer on that species bracket. Sometimes I like it colder. It's just everything. Sorry, I'm going off on what I'm shutting up.
Oh, you're fine, dude. KB?
My favourite exotic is probably Fidoli. And native, I'd say, is Myrmica rubra. It's probably.
Interesting.
I've got two favourites, a native and exotic, so can't leave them out. Yeah,
Very cool.
that's it.
Hey, it's Ants on the Rock Thomas Dodgett Hill. Welcome. Let's see him in chat. I was like, hi. All right. So, light scraper ants. What is your favorite genus / species that you currently have?
I don't keep the species, but my favorite is Monomorium. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Nah, I despise Monomorium. Oh gosh, it's terrible. But Dacitin is a really nice species. They're like an arboreal species of trapjaw from South America. There's two species that I know of. I don't know how to say either of their names, but one's completely orange and one is orange and black. And then I guess like a close second would be leafcutters and bull ants because they're both, one grows fungus, the other one has like it's its own person. So it's like it's a really cool ant species, both of them, and hopefully I can actually keep leafcutters and bull ants one day. Working on that.
Can I pop in with a quick question?
Of course.
You kept leafcutters like last year, didn't you? Or what happened to that? What happened then?
Passing away. Tracking. I called them dwarf leaf cutters for a little bit. They don't cut leaves too often, but they do cut them on occasion. I'd say I have a colony of tracking mimics right now that's in a naturalistic setup. I don't know if their fungus is growing or not. I'm assuming that it's all right because they've been doing a lot of digging. But they have one queen and over 100 workers, so that's pretty good.
Awesome. Colonialist, what is your favorite genus / species?
Oh, 12,500 known species. Again, it's just I can't put my finger on it. It's like Pokemon. What's your favorite Pokemon? You have each one in a different favorite class. Like my entire collection has been selected for my favorite trait within each genus that I keep. So it's kind of like I can't choose between my leaf cutters because they're amazing. My Polyacus dives, which at the moment are just like building nests, which is just insane. And because of the pods, I get to see inside their nest, and that's incredible to watch. And the simple fact is, 24/7, doesn't matter what time of day it is. There's hundreds of thousands of them running around, so there's always something to watch with that. The Mesobarbarus for their polymorphism and the way they collect seeds and their interesting behavior of watching them make ant bread and stuff like that. It's kind of like, to pick a favorite's impossible because my whole collection would be my collection of favorite ants, and as I say, each one's been selected for something specifically that they do, which is sort of my favorite thing in that species, like the acromimics with the fungus growing and stuff like that. I really want Atta because I want that challenge. I want the multiple gardens. I want the large super majors. I want to watch them trying to drag a branch through my house because they've managed to get out and cut down the tree.
Right.
You know, that's kind of how I am with it. Like that's my excitement with it. I just find there's too many favorites. I can't list one. I'll be here all day listing ant species.
Right. I just put on the screen the last video you did of Solenopsis germata, the tropical fire ants colony introduction that you did. And
Yeah,
man,
that one I wanted to put a warning out because they're not an easy species. They're dangerous. It's like
yeah,
keeping a hired hitman, but the contract's out on your life.
for a while now, I've been wanting to keep fire ants, but then I realized after watching this video, I was like, I don't know if I want to keep them just yet, especially
Yeah, I mean,
being
like,
in someone
see
else's
that
house.
test tube? When I have to get that test tube out, there's about 50 ants that catch me before I get that test tube out and cleaned
Oh,
and
shoot.
get a new one in there. So, like, no matter what you do, you're always going to get stung.
Yeah.
They are fun. I enjoy it. It's a challenge. Um, they're a cool species, but the workload to them is epic. There's a seriousness to them. Like, I really do think that, only the most dedicated, you should get them for, more reason of, like, not so much the popular thing. Oh my god, Ants Canada has them. Like, they do grow to 1 million workers and they do sting and they will chase you down. Like, when I had the 100 workers escape, if I put my hand down, they all
Mhm.
just ran towards my finger. And it was like, whoa, like, there's nothing you can do. You've just got to act fast with them. So it's kind of on that thing that if they get out or you disconnect the tube, you're automatically in trouble.
Yeah. I I definitely wanted to keep them myself, but after watching that video, I was probably like, yeah, I'll wait until I move out and get a place of my own. But here's a random question: which continent has the best ants? Anybody can answer.
Ooh. Do you know what? I would have to go with the same answers that came out yesterday. So
Asia.
you've got like Asia, South America, obviously North America because you got honeypot ants. When I lived in America out in California, there was out in the Mojave Desert there was a honeypot colony there, and I used to just watch them sort of like foraging and that. And I didn't actually get back into ant keeping until after that, and I always regretted that I never sort of kept the colony while I was out there.
For me, it's definitely Australia.
Australia has some beautiful ones. My favorite at the moment are, again, the favorites, the Righted Openera Metallica for their beautiful coloring. And they're just such a chill species. Although they can pack a powerful sting, they don't want to sting you. They're not aggressive like that, but they're really awesome to keep.
Yep. Anybody else wants to answer this question?
I'm going to go with Asia, to be fair, because most of my ant species that aren't native, even though that sounds a bit weird, but aren't native, are from Asia. I do have some other continents. I mean, I've got an Australian species. Don't think I've got any American anymore. I'm not going to talk about that one. But yeah, I think Asia, because they've just got such variety and they've got such different all shapes and sizes. I mean, Ants Canada, take him as you want, but his new videos with his little ant farm thingy-majiggy field with woods or forest, whatever you want to call it, kind of like highlights how many different species that the Asian area has. So I'm gonna my vote goes to Asia. I'm just dribbling so much today.
Yeah, for the diversity, Asia's got to be top on the list, I'd say as well.
Yeah. I know South America has a lot of cool species, and there's more species that probably haven't been found because a lot of the continent hasn't been really like explored, especially like the Amazon and stuff like that. Which I lived in Brazil for about 6 years, and like I've seen ants down there, but like didn't really care about them at that period in my life, which I did. I wish I did then, as I do now. But the next question I do have is there a specific foricarium that you like a lot that you can recommend to the listeners and viewers? I like Tar Heel ants a lot currently.
That's such a tough question.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Horrible
actually
question.
really tough to answer because it always depends on the species.
Yep.
What setup benefits them really? Because some species might need an etong, some species might need an acrylic. Other species like the Carabara finis that I have, they do well in a natural setup and don't do well in much else. So it's kind of like sometimes you're limited to what the species needs. And then it's kind of like you can be creative that way. Like if they need a natural setup, you can go for the big, large tank. or like me, you can stick to modular setups because you're space limited, and you know you need to get the maximum amount sort of space to efficiency, and being able to switch that around and put it into place.
Yep.
Right. I'd have to agree with the colonialist on some part of that, but I find that there's no one retailer that does everything that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah,
I mean,
good
some
mix.
some do nests really well,
Right.
some do outworlds really well.
Yeah, like
and
I've always
not-
liked the Wakushi Outworld where he's got the stuff screwed in and it's fixed in.
Yep.
And then like I like the Vortex Outworlds from Antboy UK, which are the pod. I call them the pod Outworlds because they're just pretty cool.
Right.
You know, I was sort of talking to them a lot while they were being developed. Initially, like you know, I asked for them to be made for my Polyacus dives and stuff like that, and sort of came up with. I've actually got a really big giant pod coming for my Polyacus dives, so that's going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, so Wakusi was in the chat. I'm not sure if he's still in there or not, but he recently just got a mic and everything, so I'm pumped to interview him
Yeah, he got
eventually.
the same mic as me, which is pretty cool. We were
Nice.
talking about it last night.
Nice. So I did have a question. Well, I didn't have a question, but Iman had a question, and it was, how can I no longer be scared of insects/ants?
eat them because you can't be scared of your food.
I think it just generally comes slow to the hobby. I mean, when I started keeping ants, I was scared for a single escapee, and it's today I dropped the test tube with 25 workers all over me, and I just you know slowly just got them together and grabbed them all. So I think it's just about getting used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly rationalizing your fear. That's one of the main things. Face your fear and rationalize it. Like I have an irrational fear of spiders. I don't like them at all, and I've been chased by some scary species of spiders in my life. Like,
Oh gosh.
so it's it's
Yeah.
not something I like. So I personally don't want to rationalize my fear on spiders. As far as I'm concerned, like, hey, that's been built into years and years of human development to be scared of those things. So I'll keep that one. But I rationalize my fears as much as possible. Like my fear of heights, I just kept facing them until I wasn't scared of them anymore.
Right.
And that's kind of like what you have to do. Just keep going. Just learn to enjoy it. Find insects that you love. You like butterflies? Get into keeping butterflies. They're beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
Not all insects are scary, you know. So sort of start easy. Start with something light. Start with something you can enjoy. That's the main thing.
Also, like if you were to start ant keeping and you're scared of insects, don't get a stinging species. Don't get an aggressive species.
Yeah,
get a
something
boring.
fun, like they're really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I was scared of ants, or not scared, but I was nervous of my latest nighters. And as I said before, I dropped all of them today, and you know, slowly getting used to it. I didn't really panic in the situation. I just, took it together and just started carrying them home again.
Yeah.
So I think it's just if you're scared of it, don't go out and get some big scary species. Just take a boring one and go from there.
Yeah. Stein, you asked in chat why did I take your sister's question about being afraid of insects. It's a good question, honestly. Here's the reason why.
I agree.
It's a good question. Mainly because, like, for myself, before I started keeping ants, I was deadly afraid of insects. Like if people said, okay, Hamza, or Durka, what's your favorite, like, what's your fears? I'd be like, I'm afraid of heights and I don't like insects. Like, here's an example. Cicadas, by the way. I don't know what it is, but they freak me out. Like, I mean, they're cool and they're interesting, but like, they freak me out. Like, I don't know what it is.
They are freaky out.
They're freaky. But like, when it comes before,
what are they?
So they're the insects that like hibernate for years at a time, and they come out and they make like these hissing noises.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was in Brazil when I lived with my dad for a while, and I was in the apartment hanging out, and a cicada came flying into the apartment building, and it just like landed there, and I literally screamed like a girl and ran for my life because I was scared of a little bug that I didn't know what it was. And my dad told me a story that in Brazil, what kids do is they tie strings around the legs of the cicadas, and they fly around and they make those noises, and they like basically like fly around in circles and stuff. And the kids play with cicadas in Brazil. Imagine
Yeah,
that.
I've heard that. I've heard that.
Are they
And
big?
it's kind of like Madagascar hisses in the sense that they make that noise really. Like
Yeah.
Madagascar hisses, they just make it just to try and be scary. And I've actually got a colony of them, which I keep as a sort of feeder, and my missus hates them. The moment I grab one and it's like freaking out,
Yeah.
she just can't handle it.
Yeah, they're freaky. I'm putting a Google search of them on the video so people can see what they look like if they don't know what they look like. They are freaky.
Are they big?
They're big.
Yeah. Cicadas are pretty big, man. They're some
Wowza.
mean looking bug, man.
I've
Are we-
listened to a podcast about biology of them because they hibernate for like years at a time. I think it's like 17 years or something, and then they come out and mate, and then they
Yeah.
live like in trees and stuff. But yeah, they're pretty crazy. All right, so let's see. So we had a question from Stein. His question was, do you like species of multiple sizes of workers or species with only one size?
Multiple. I love multiple different sizes. I not that I find like I can't think of the word off the top of my head. Polymorphic. Not that I don't enjoy non-polymorphic ants because I do, but I just love polymorphic ants. I love the different casts and the different jobs that they do. I mean, I was absolutely wounded when my Carabera Diversa, that's it, sorry. When they died because I got a mite infection, I was absolutely wounded because I was looking forward to owning them since I've seen the Titans on Ants Canada. Because I love the extreme difference between the teeny tiny workers to the absolute super majors, which are almost as big as the queen, and I love
I
that
just love
characteristic.
the way that the minor workers, when they find something, run away, and then you see them come back riding on top of the super major, and it just reminds me, if you've ever seen The Labyrinth as a child, and Rufus, when he's sitting on top of the bigger dog and he's like charge, it just reminds me of that, the minor worker riding on top of the major, just charging into battle like cavalry.
Right. And Hollifer, is there a specific? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I like the different sizes, especially because in the founding stages, you can really tell all the few workers apart and slowly like get a relationship to the workers. And then when you have 100 workers, you can't really get the same relationship. But then when the first major starts to arrive, you can kind of again follow that specific major. And I don't know, it's just when you have a big colony, it's quite hard to like follow what's going on because there's ants all over the place. But you can always kind of see the major's job and what they are doing.
Yep.
And I don't know, it just in my eyes it gives a closer relationship, as at least in the founding stages, as they are easier to track. So yeah, I want different sizes as well.
Okay.
Or I like that.
Yep. KB ants.
Yeah, I like polymorphic species, like with Fidoli when they have the majors with the big heads. I just find it cool when you give them some food and then the majors start coming out to chop it up. I just like the difference. I just find it really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Colonialist.
Yeah, I'm definitely a polymorphism fan.
Yep, same here.
110%.
The real question is there anyone who isn't?
Right.
And why?
Yeah. Anybody
Well,
in chat want to answer that question?
There are some beautiful monomorphic species like Polyacus dives. They're beautiful. I love the shine on them, the gleam on them. They do have their roles, and they do have their beauty. But I think there is something about polymorphism that's just incredible. Like the Carabara diversa, Carabara finis. One of the things that I love is when the minor workers come running in, they see something, they just charge back up. They grab one of the majors, and I don't know if you've seen Labyrinth as a child with Rufus, when he's just sitting on the dog and he's like charge, and it's just like they're going in and getting it. That's I can just repeat that and watch that all day long.
Right.
Riding the trusty steed into battle.
It literally is. It's just like cavalry just charging
Pretty
in,
much,
and it's
yeah.
it's just so epic to watch. And again, like Aunt Oliver was saying, like, you know, that feeling of your first major and that excitement when you see that giant bit of lava and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get one. You know, it is
Yeah.
a special feeling, and I think it does get you a little bit more attached to the ants.
For sure.
But it doesn't mean that non-polymorphic ants aren't interesting, because, for example, I've got a little obsession with my Formica sanguinea right now. Yeah, well, you know what I'm like for pronouncing. Stop bullying me. I feel victimised by you. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a little obsession with them at the moment because they've got some slaves, and it's just I've put them into a big outworld for the first time. And it's just interesting watching the relationship between the slave and the masters.
Right.
So even though they might not be polymorphic and have all the interesting stuff like that, doesn't mean that non-polymorphic ants are boring, because by far from it, sir. By far.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So before we get into this next part of the question segment, I do want to say that Lights Camera Ants has a problem with his Wi-Fi, and it won't let him join the chat again. So sadly, he is not coming back for the rest of the show. So if you want to follow him on any social media, it's Lights Camera Ants. And we'll definitely be bringing him onto the show again. I plan on interviewing him one-on-one eventually. That's in the plans. So before we go into the actual panel discussion, we'll open up the mics like we did yesterday, which that is your cue for everybody else in the actual Formicast Discord. If you have not joined the Discord, I just published it in the channel. On the YouTube channel, you guys can click on that link and hop into waiting room and wait for us as we open up the actual question room for the Easter special. But before we go into that, you may now ask each other any specific questions about what you do, or on anything specific about any ants you keep or anything like that.
And everybody was so quiet.
I'd just like to say, if we have the same editing problem for the podcast episode 4, I will edit that. Yeah.
Yeah, fair one, matey.
I feel bullied now. Who's getting bullied? It's me.
I was gonna say, hey, for episode 4, can I come onto the show?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We've actually been saying, like, every time, because like we kind of like short shifted the episodes. It's kind of been like, hey, you free this Sunday? And everyone's like, yeah, we're free this Sunday. And then throw them in.
And then on the Sunday, we're like, oh, we can't do it anyway. And then we shift to another Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times. But
we are very busy people, to be honest, aren't we?
We are
Very
sort
busy.
of getting to the point where we're like, we've said we need to sort of get guests involved and figure out how to sort of like chain them in. It's something we'd love to do with you, man. Genuinely, would love to have you on the podcast and feature more on your podcast and do stuff like this. I mean, this is amazing, man.
Yep.
This live, I love it. I really do.
So
Yeah, just do it earlier in the day, so I'm not drinking whiskey while doing
Oh,
this.
I don't mind you drinking whiskey while you're doing a show. I'm drinking mine. I'm about to have a refill, so we're good. We're good.
So that's why you can't talk straight.
You guys are teasing me, man. I'm stuck at work. I gotta be dry.
Man.
Sucks to be you.
It's alright. I'll have an extra drink on your case.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Make sure you do. It make me feel better.
Alright. So we're gonna go into a break, so if everybody else that is ready to hop into the waiting room may go ahead and hop in there. May go ahead and hop in. Yes, I would definitely love to bring you onto the show, Ants of the Rock Thomas Dodgett Hill. I'm sorry if I mispronounced anything. But
I love that you say the full name and
yes.
not just Ants on a Rock.
Yep.
Ants on a Rock, Thomas Dodgett. Yep.
Yep. It's funny because I actually like saw his channel like yesterday, the day before, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I'm glad he's actually in the YouTube chat. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, man.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. I talked to him quite a fair bit as well, to be honest.
That's pretty sweet. So yeah, let's go ahead and open up the waiting room. Looks like Wakusi was in there for a second, and then he hopped back out. Which
Is he going to be upset with me?
Probably.
Oh damn! After that, your last words, he's gonna be
I'm
furious.
not saying out. I'm not saying out.
So, yep, we're just waiting for people to hop into the waiting room, and
I love
But
happy ants comments.
if we don't have people hopping into the waiting room, that's fine. We can just take questions from.
Well, I saw an interesting question earlier.
Okay.
Was referring to how you start a YouTube channel, and I don't know. I
Yeah,
thought.
I saw that as well. I thought that would be a good question to answer.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe we should talk quickly about how we all started YouTube, because
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been since the day I got my ants the first time and bought them online. I took my phone out and started recording them, and that's my first video on my channel. That's literally the first day I had ants
You
in
know
my
what? I
house.
would say for
Nice.
me, that's what made it accessible is technology that has come on so far. Because without being able to use my phone, I wouldn't be on YouTube because I edit, record everything on my phone, and I'm only now learning how to sort of connect stuff up on the PC, and I'm investing in sort of like better equipment and stuff like that. I want to get a proper video camera, but at the moment, because I've got a Nikon D3400 DSLR, so I'm
They're
sort
not
of
bad, man.
saving up to get the. It can record in 1080p, but the one thing that I need is a macro lens because I've botched up a competition. Yeah,
Yep.
the Queen's still there, the competition's still live, it's still going, but I haven't been able to do my live because I haven't been able to figure out how to set up the camera. And then I realized when I was trying to film the ants, I don't have the right lens to film the ants. So this epic thing that I had for a live to announce this competition has been absolutely fudged. And
The
then
real
I'm
question
asking
is,
people like, should I do it on Instagram or Facebook? But I feel like I'll lose the people that were involved in the competition. So guys, that competition is still live. There's a
the real question is,
Queen available.
will the
I
Queen
thought it was
die
just a
of
quick
old
answer.
age?
That went forever.
The Queen might die of old age before she gets sent out.
To be fair, she has been in hibernation for most of this time, which I've just taken her out of hibernation. So
She hibernates?
we've
I
just
thought
got
she was
hibernation out the way.
I didn't know they hibernated, to be fair.
No,
Yeah,
I
Not
didn't.
the optics of the
they do
species, so.
hibernate.
We do have a question from Stein. He said that he can't go into voice chat. He says, "Do you prefer live feeding or feeding dead insects?"
Dead insects. Well, freshly killed. Freshly
Dead
killed, for
insect.
sure.
The only life I feed would be fruit flies that can't fly, and else
Yeah.
dead.
Yep.
I was gonna say you have to match live prey to what your ants can take out. If you have a stinging species or something like that, they can dispatch a fruit fly quicker than you can. So it's okay for them to hunt that. Most ants are specialist hunters of dipterans, and dipterans are the family of flies. So if you're looking to live feed, then that's primarily what you should do. And other species like Camponotus, they also hunt grubs and larvae. But feeding something like a locust, an adult locust live, or a cockroach, it's not good for the colony because it stresses them out like crazy, and it's not good for the cockroach because that's a painful death of hours of suffering of being attacked and bitten and nipped apart. It's better just to chop them up with a pair of scissors and throw them in.
Yep. Stein just said for big colonies what he meant. Sweet.
Again, there's still a stress response. I mean, I've got the large colony of Solenopsis, the large colony of Carabara, and if I was to throw in a live cockroach, they would be wanting. The only reason they kill it is because they're defending their nest. It's not a response of happiness. It's not a response that these ants want to do that. You force them into that situation in the wild. That insect would escape. That insect would run for its life. That insect wouldn't be trapped inside a container to be eaten alive like that. So I think you should be responsible with it because it is a life. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like the same with like humans. The state of our farming. Animals shouldn't be treated like that. We should treat them with more respect. They're given our life to sustain us. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, I try to bring that ethos into the ants as well. I care for the feeder insects, and then I try to dispatch them as quickly and painfully as possible. I give them the best life, and then I give them a quick death.
Yep. I'm glad everybody is enjoying the show, that's for sure. There was a couple more questions that people were gonna ask. Is Wakoshi still around? He hopped into the waiting room and then disappeared. If you hear me, well, feel free to hop into the Easter Special chat room, and you can ask any questions you may have. Happy Aunt UK, I see you're in here. Do you have anything you want to ask?
Yes, hello. I've got a question for Hood, actually.
Hey.
Hi, right. So, I love how brutally honest you are on, like, all your reviews and that. I just wonder, do you ever feel like maybe you shouldn't have said something, or are you always, like, happy with what you've said?
No, but you know why I'm the way I am with my reviews? Is because I started doing product reviews because I got sick to death of watching reviews where I could blatantly see something was rubbish, and yet the person doing the review would be like, "This is great, this is brilliant," and it frustrated me because it had a glaring issue with it, but they didn't pick up on it when it's glaring. So when I do my product reviews, people think I'm harsh because I point out the bad things, but I also point out the good things. And if I'm saying something's bad, if I said something was rubbish, then walked away and said, "Nah, it's rubbish, don't bother, off you go, mate, don't worry about it," that would be bad criticism. But because I say, right, it's rubbish because of this, or I don't like it because of this, I'm being constructive and telling you what the issue is. And that's the big difference. But unfortunately, I get quite a bit of backlash because there is this element of elitism within our hobby where people bulge up around their favourite providers, be it ants, be it equipment, stuff like that. And frankly, I don't care. I don't do it for freebies. Everything I review, I buy. So if I've got an honest opinion to make, I'll just make it. And I generally don't care what people think, to be honest, because I think if people don't be honest, then somebody coming into the hobby may buy something and think, yes, this is great because this guy reviewed it, said it was brilliant, spend all that money, realise it's rubbish, doesn't do the job properly or whatever, and then lose interest in the hobby because they can't keep a queen alive. So that's my opinion. Other people may differ, and I'm sure people will say, "Hood, shut up, you moron, you're a douche." I can live with that, you know?
I completely agree. I mean, I'm always pretty nice on my reviews, though I try to at the end talk about all the bad things, but yet ended on a semi-positive note.
Right.
But I haven't really tried bad products yet. I've only tried I don't know products.
I mean,
So-
Bearing in mind, I'd like to point out there's only ever been one product I've chucked in the bin, and that was the acrylic nest from Antcube, or the Ant Store in Germany, because their Outworlds are the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. But their nest, that nest that I had, was atrocious. It was awful. So it literally got chucked in the bin, and I never see it. Obviously, it's in the bin, it's in a landfill site somewhere. But that's the only product that I've chucked away.
I've had that nest or the same type as well, and their water system, I don't know, the one I had where you had to, it has like a little string you had to put down in water, but if you had to refill water down below, you had to lift the whole nest and stress all the ants and then change that. I always thought that was a really weird system.
And it was such a little bit of water, it lasted all of 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you had to refill that all the time, and you had no idea how much hydrated they were.
Yeah, but I'd like to point out to everybody, though, I'm actually, well, blowing my own trumpet here, I'm actually not a bad guy. I'm, if you ask me a question, I'll be as helpful as I possibly can. And I come across as being a bit of an idiot, and I am an idiot, but it's all about helping people.
Right.
And I like helping people. I'm sure some people listening here will say, "Do you know what? I've actually had some advice off Hood. I spoke to him. He's a decent dude." And then, you know,
Never.
don't think just because I'm blunt and honest that I'm a douchebag. Well, I am a douchebag, but I'm not a crazy douchebag. You know what I mean?
I mean, like, I'm not very experienced in the hobby whatsoever. I mean, I've definitely made some mistakes, and I've had Minigun, who is in our chat right now, like, tell me several times, like, don't do this, do that, and, like, which is really great to have someone that's more experienced, like, kind of just tell me, like, hey, you should probably do this instead. Like, it's really helpful to have people in the community that are supportive. And Hood, what I love about you is, yes, you're honest and you're blunt, and I love, like, when you're warning me, like, several times before the show, you're like, hey, I'm I'm going to be blunt and I'm going to be honest as possible. And you're like, I'm going to be drinking whiskey before the show and I'm going to try my best not to swear. I'm like, dude, like, that's awesome.
Just douchebag class is a swear word.
Like,
The thing is,
no,
I'd say
it's fine.
he's definitely got the best intentions. He's got a solid
yeah,
heart of gold.
for sure.
So.
But we do have another question. I do want to. Yes, Minigun is a great guy. Talk to him all the time. One of the questions we actually just got another question from Stein, and his question was, how many days do you clean up your small colonies outworld? Which I actually want to know the answer to that because my harvester ants, I've been feeding them mealworms and crickets and ran out of crickets, but like I've noticed that they've started to like make trash piles like in their outworld and near their nest. So I need to like know what's like it's like once a week, every other week, like every other day, or
I do mine once a week.
once a week.
Yeah,
I
but it
do
depends.
mine whenever I see it build up. So
Yeah, it depends on the species.
Mm-hmm.
See, I feed all my ants cockroaches, so they leave most of the ants. I mean, my Fidolis are just crazy and they just destroy everything, including the exoskeletons. But I'm not even joking. Fidoli nodas, they are crazy. But anyway, because they leave exoskeletons, they leave a trash pile. So every time I feed them, generally it depends how big. If it's a test tube, it's different. But small colonies in an outworld, I'll clean it up as soon as I've seen that they've done with it. To be honest, so I just kind of clean up as I go along. Yeah, probably the best thing, because if you leave it too long, when I came back from my residential course for 2 weeks, my Fidolis haven't been cleaned out. And it took me 45 minutes to clean them out, where normally it's just clean up as you go along. So
yeah, that's happened with me because I'm away every 2 weeks for 2 weeks. So every 14 days, I'm away for 14 days. So
yeah.
My missus takes over the feeding, but she doesn't do the cleaning because she's not getting that close to my hands. So she's happy to feed them, but it means like when I get back, the first 4 days that I'm home is basically just like going through my ant colonies and sort of like giving them a good deep clean. So especially the leaf cutters, because they've obviously got organic material in their foraging pod.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I came back, somehow algae had managed to start growing on the walls. So it took a while to scrub that off.
Okay. Anime Ants just joined, and also Aesthetic Ants just joined the voice channel. Do either of you guys have questions?
I just got home, so
Nice.
I joined as fast as possible. But yeah, good evening, everyone. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Right, it's like.
Sorry, it took me a while to mute my mic, but good evening to you too, sir.
What time is it over there, all you Europeans?
It's 10 o'clock.
I'm English, not European.
9 o'clock.
The real time is 9. But I mean, let's be honest.
It depends where you are. It's 9. It's 8 minutes past 9 in Britain, and then it's an hour plus for them. So
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the real countries, not
Right.
the Icelands.
you're forgetting, man.
I love you, Alex.
You're forgetting
I love it.
we're the center of the world. We're
Center
0
of the
degrees, 0 degrees. We claim that one, man.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are
Blah,
Zulu
blah,
hours
blah,
as
blah.
well.
You know, the real time is 10 o'clock at the moment.
Right. All right. Anybody can answer this question. Do you prefer breeding or feeding insects yourself or buying them at a pet store? I currently buy them at a pet store, but I plan on breeding them myself.
I'd buy mine.
I buy mine as well. Well, I mean, I have a full-time job, and then I make YouTube, and then I have to clean up and get food for my ants and all that stuff. And if you have a mealworm farm, you have to sort like the adults from the larvae, because else they will eat each other and all that. And it may only take a few minutes, but for me, it's already pretty push with making videos and making ant food and cleaning up the ants and have a full-time job and all that. So yeah.
Actually,
You don't have to. You don't have to. There's
No,
like if you give them a bunch of like a lot of substrate for them to dig in, like oats for them to dig in, and you feed them every day, you can still get them to breed and not eat each other too much without having to pick them out.
Too much.
Because like picking them out does take for like it's really annoying. But I used to do that, but then I was just too lazy to do it anymore. So I just like give them a bunch of oats and I just feed them regularly, and they seem to be doing pretty well. so it's not that bad. I just take out old food and put in new food, like every.
Thing that I've seen is quite cool is a setup that you can sort of make quite easily, where the once they become adults, so they turn from the mealworms into darkling beetles. You can actually make a setup so it's a one-way. It's sort of like a one-way system. So once the darkling beetles go through to where the food is, they can't come back, so they get trapped in that chamber, so they separate themselves.
Right.
So there are stuff you can put in place. Like I do that with mine, so that it's quite remote. I only need to just sort of move them once they've gone through into the feeding chamber, and then I feed the mealworms in the other chamber, and then again I've got my mixed feeder colony of dubia roaches and Madagascar hissers, and they're just really chill. I mean, all your scraps, they're all recycled by them. So if you've got scrap veg, you've got scrap meat, you've got scrap anything, just throw it in, they'll eat it, and they're more than happy.
So there was a question from Ants2K, but I completely missed it. He said he had a question. Wish I had my mic to ask a question. I'm just gonna edit this out. Oh, he's asking again. What was the biggest issue you faced in ant keeping?
Solenopsis. No.
Not having the species you wanted.
Yeah, that getting hold
man.
of the species that you really want. I would be a living zoo right now, if I could. That's one of my ultimate dreams. But yeah, I'd have a living zoo right now. I'd have all 12,500 species.
So I'm trying to figure out. Oh, here it is. Easter special. There you are. Wakusi, there you are.
Hey, man.
I think my biggest issue is when a colony isn't doing good and you just can't tell what's wrong. Like, I still have colony that just eats its larvae and then makes some new eggs, and then the eggs hatch to larvae and they eat the larvae. So
my Nova Mesa Coccarelli's doing that at the moment. She's being fed carbohydrates and protein every 14 days. She lets her larvae get to the point that it's going to pupate. She eats it, lays another single egg, and then she's done it 5 times.
I have the exact same problem.
I think it's important to note, though. I mean, on this panel and people that are on it, we've got some really experienced ant keepers, and all amongst every last one of us, I bet we've had queens that just die. You know, it doesn't matter how much you try to keep that queen alive and you do everything right, she's just doomed from the word go.
But
it's
again,
not necessarily
that's the biological mass production of the queens. They're not always perfectly healthy. You know, some of them can be born with defects, like, you know, weird diseases or anything. Like, they're just like us. You know, they can sort of have cancer and shit. Excuse my French. They can have cancer and stuff like that and pass away. So, you know, anything can. It just, if something goes, it goes.
Yeah.
This is why I get upset. I mean, I really got upset by my honeypots when they died.
Me too.
But
mine went on and on and on. She tried to survive, but she just didn't lay again. And then her
I think that's because I messed up with that one. I messed up with her, so that's why I took it personally and get upset by it. But I generally, when I lose an ant, like what Alex was saying, a queen, I generally don't get upset by it, because if she dies and I know I've done everything right, I've done everything right. Do you know what I mean? So
right.
But it was just my honeypots that just destroyed me because I messed up big time.
So we have another question from Stein. He's asking a lot of questions. This is great. Can you feed big worms to big colonies, or do insects have more protein?
You can feed worms. I mean, I don't know if anyone watched my video on the Carabara when they first moved into the pod, but to bioactivate the soil, I had added a load of earthworms, and within about 15 minutes of the Carabara going in, suddenly all these earthworms appeared at the top of the setup, just covered in Carabara, where they were just like, hey, you left us a takeaway. You're great. And I felt awful. But no, you can, because they're soft-bodied and stuff like that. They will consume them. They'll eat them pretty quick. And
what's the protein content like, though?
I'm not too sure in comparison to sort of cockroaches, because inside a single cockroach, you have more protein in that than like 3 or 4 steaks. So you know, you have to look at it that way. Like, they're so small and compact, but their protein content's so high. So That's
I'd rather
always
eat
my
a steak
good
though.
for that. Yeah, me too. But
Mhm.
in the future, we're probably going to have cockroach burgers and cockroach steak instead of beef steak.
Well,
Can I ask? Can I ask
So
a
we're going
quick
to get
question?
coronavirus from cockroaches next then.
go ahead and ask your
So-
question, but then I do want to say something about that, about specific cockroach burgers, because there is something I want to talk about specifically about bugs. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just after joining the Colonials Antcast, I've just heard so much about cockroaches and all of that, and I don't have any yet, and I'm just getting more and more convinced that I should get them. So can you like tell me how it is with breeding them in like 2 minutes or something? Just a quick overview.
Yeah, it's primarily the heat. So you want the tank to be around 30 degrees Celsius, and you kind of want about 60% humidity, a nice layer of substrate so you can bioactivate that, and then just making sure that they have a balance of protein, because the females, when they're gravid, they need a high protein diet.
So dirt setup or
I do a dirt setup with isopods, springtails, and worms. So basically, like any of their waste gets cleaned by those, and you don't have to clean the tank other than the glass. So it's perfect that way, I find.
But you're looking
Otherwise,
at a breeding
you've got the egg
setup though.
carton. Yeah. Well, you can do the egg carton setup, but when I used to do that, when I was breeding them for when I bred lizards, it was the biggest nightmare I ever had, because every couple of days I had to switch out the egg cartons, I had to clean it out. It was always so filthy. It always smelt of ammonia, and it always smelt horrible. And it wasn't pleasant. But ever since I've switched to having the completely natural setup with properly bioactivated soil and all the right creatures in there, there's no smell, and it's just I don't have to do anything other than feed them and then watch them just decimate the food that's in there. And then suddenly all these little babies keep appearing. I've probably got about 1,000 cockroach nymphs at the moment.
So I do have
because it's self-sustaining, but I just buy mine in, so I just put them in a empty fish tank with some egg cartons and just chuck food in there, and then when I need to replace them, I buy some more.
Well, the cycling of them's hard because they take 1.5 years to molt from nymph to adult.
Do they? That's what
they
this
do.
Nubia road is it?
So you can't. So you've got to make sure that you don't take too many of your adults, which I made the mistake of in the beginning, and then I had to like replenish my colony, kind of thing. So what I do now is I wait for them to have loads and loads of nymphs, and then I sort of feed about 20% of the nymph population and 20% of the sub-adults, and then maybe like 2% of the adults, depending on how many adults I've got, just to make sure that they can continuously keep that cycle, and I don't dent the numbers to the point where I then have to buy in more.
So I did have another question about what kind of nest do you guys prefer. I do want to ask Bakusi his opinion and Aesthetic Ants on his opinion on nests. Like, what is a specific nest that's best for a specific species? Do you guys have any opinion on those?
the silence is real.
Is Wakusi still here? I know he's in the chat, but he's muted.
I have
Yeah,
one
but-
question though about the feeding cockroaches, because I've seen it a lot too. But is it really? Well, I can imagine that for me, who has only small. Well, my largest colony is 70 workers, believe it or not. But then it would be not worth to get them, right? Because yeah,
You guys
well,
hear
I
me?
can't even finish my
Yes,
fruit
we can hear you.
flies.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear
Yep.
Thank you for interrupting my question, Rokush. No, just kidding. Just kidding,
to tell
bro.
you the truth, matey, I do feed cockroaches to my smaller colonies. I just cut them up. But if you can't go through your fruit flies, and for small colonies, fruit flies are the bee's knees. No
Right.
pun intended, as it were. So I'll just keep feeding fruit flies. If you find that you use all your fruit flies and the colony gets bigger, and then you need to progress onto a bigger food source, definitely get some roaches, because the roadrunner roaches.
No, sorry, I think
Turkey
I'm like on a
stand
real
roaches, I
delay.
think
I
they
said
are.
that ages ago.
What's that? Sorry.
What was that?
Hello.
He said he
Got a
has
delay.
a delay on. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were muted that whole time. Now you're not muted.
Yeah.
Who, me?
No.
No, Wakushi. I think he has lag or something.
The problem is there's 2 questions and 3 conversations going at the same time. I think.
Completely.
That's
Oh, right,
what
okay.
happens when you do the Brexit. Even the internet connection just fades away.
Yeah, so
But
I got-
yeah, then I'll
you have a
definitely
point
look
over
into
there.
getting roaches. Yeah, in the
Firstly,
future.
my advice is start the colony now because, as I said, they take a year and a half to go from nymph to adult. So you've got a
Or
very
buy
long
off eBay.
time span, and if you find yourself with excess, you've then got something you can sell and make money to pay for your ants. So it's never a
Some-
bad shout.
Some
Interesting.
types grow faster than that. So like I know dubias are slower, but I mean I haven't had them, but I know there's like red runners and other
Yeah,
sorts
they're
that
all
were
fast.
that
If they lay
are
eggs,
faster.
they're fast. If they have babies, then like dubia roaches and Madagascars, they lay their young from inside, like they've got the egg sac that they carry with them. Whereas red runners lay like 1 billion eggs somewhere. But then it's kind of harder to not spoil their eggs. Like it's so much easier to keep dubia roaches and Madagascars and go with that time frame. I find than getting overrun by something like red runners or American roaches, which can breed so prolifically.
So Wakusi, if you says you're delayed by like 30 seconds, if you are listening to the actual show and you're listening to us talk in Discord, I would probably mute the actual YouTube so it's not bleeding in like that. That might help. This is recorded from Discord. But yeah. Is there any other specific questions that
I think we should go back to that one that you just asked, Static Ants and Wakushi, because I'll be interested to know their opinion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the one you just said about the type of nest that they recommend and stuff.
Yep, I definitely want to know their recommended nests.
You guys there?
But my recommended nest.
Yeah, but
Yep.
Ah. Well, for like any species or just for beginners, or I missed the
Its
question.
own products. That's the problem.
I'm completely lost here.
So, you know, they.
So what nests I would recommend for like people listening.
Yes.
Or what?
Yeah, for
okay.
beginners and stuff.
Yeah, I believe I said that yesterday. But, like for the shops, I would always recommend Wakushi and Antlab. That's what I said yesterday.
Right.
But I think if you mean type of nest, I would definitely say go for white tongue nests or blaster nest. But yeah, I think that you can't go wrong on hydrating that those nests. Heating might be a little more difficult, but I think hydration is where I see the most problems. People just putting in way too much hot water and then drowning their colonies. So I think with white tongue, definitely you can get away with a lot more water than the other nests. So I would say that's best for beginners. Personally, I really like the look of acrylic nest, just because of the cleanness of the. Yeah, you can see the ants.
In a lot of nests is they don't have a large enough water reservoir. Like I really love the Tar Heel ants where they have the dish and you fill up the dish and it kind of lasts for ages. Some of my Ekong nests I have to refill them every single day.
Yeah, they do. Then the water evaporates pretty fast, of course, because it's such an porous and open type of material.
For sure.
Actually, I own a few of those in like the Tar Heel ants nest, and like if you heat them, they can evaporate like decently quickly. But like if you don't heat them and you keep them at like room temperature, they can last a really long time. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I
of
like
mine
I like their nests a lot.
When I compare them to like my Etong nests and some of my acrylic nests, because they've got such small reservoirs on those types of nests compared to the size of reservoir that he's got. Like, you know, I've got ant colonies that are heated, and sometimes you know they've got to be hydrated morning and night because the species needs a certain amount of humidity, and within a few hours, it's gone from 60% to 2%.
Yep. All right, so we have one last question, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up the question is, if you buy ants, which shop do you go to? For me, I go to Tar Heel Ants when I buy any ants, specifically in the United States. Everybody else?
I have a pretty good relationship with Ants Davy, Ants HQ as well. They've been good. I haven't bought from many of the shops. I've had, obviously, I've got the Carabara, the Solenopsis, and the Yellow Crazy Ant from the Ant Lady, and she does a lot of sort of species like that, which is quite cool because certain species, like different shops, have different policies. Like I know with Ants Davy, he doesn't like to do sort of invasive species and stuff like that, and like he does stuff with like a lot of myrmecologists and stuff, and they're like, yeah, look, we're happy to do stuff with you, but not if you're getting those kind of species.
Yep.
So I can't say I've got a lot of experience with other retailers, kind of thing. Ants R Us has a really good reputation in the UK. I mean, we're kind of spoiled for choice in the UK because our laws are so relaxed.
Yeah, lucky.
We've got some really good shops.
You lucky bastards.
Yeah.
But I think the best shop is your local hardware store for most of the people starting.
Yep.
Just get your own queens and make your own stuff. I think that's the best way to learn.
Yep.
Because it can get quite expensive. Definitely, like if I was 12-year-old getting into the ant hobby, I would have to ask my parents at first if I could even buy it.
Yep.
I think they would have said no. So yeah. So try to make your own stuff, and then there are so many. I always try to get stuff locally. As much as possible because for ants definitely the shipping time.
Yep.
And then nest is no problem, but also then the shipping can get pretty expensive pretty fast, which is always a bummer, but that's just how it works sadly.
We're really spoiled with in the UK because $2.99 next day delivery.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You can't
Whoa.
wrong, I mean,
that's
am
insane.
I kind of fickle then? Because even though I do have preferred retailers that I might go to, I generally go where the ants that I want are. So I don't. If it's a new
but that's
retailer
any
or
customer, really. I mean, I've done the same. If I see that a retailer's got them, I'm really old school. So when I go to retailers, rather than sort of just like clicking on a website and stuff like that, I tend to drop them a message and sort of like have a chat with them. It's the same like if I was to walk in a shop, I'd chat to the shopkeeper.
Such the networker.
If it's like a sort of, just an independent shop, let's say, I'm not going to go and have a chat with the Primark manager, but,
Right.
I would have a chat with an independent shopkeeper and get to know them because it's small business. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I like that personal touch. So it's always nice when you can sort of approach them that way and sort of form a relationship.
Sweet talk 'em.
Get to know them. Not so much sweet talk them, but like, just get to know who they are and like what their ethos is and how they keep the ants and know what kind of stock you're getting, really.
You're such a liar, JB. You've sweet talked me. Jesus.
So
I've got a question though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a question for Ants UK because he's just jumped in. When are you getting your next video out, matey? Because I'm looking forward to it whenever it is.
The flights start happening again, I guess. I
Have you
mean,
not got Ants out of hibernation yet, mate?
oh yeah, of course. But I'll probably wait for my Campo Hercs to have some workers and then maybe make a video on that.
A nice
Well,
place
look forward
for
to your video, buddy.
Thanks.
a nice place for to buy some ants if you live in Canada is Canada Ant Colonies.
Yep,
Because
that's for sure.
yeah,
they were selling some of the Antboy UK stuff. I've got their link on my website as well.
I'm currently talking to him about bringing him back on the show since he's doing some rebranding, or he did some rebranding on his website. He was one of my first guests on on Formicast, and we're talking about like how he got started and stuff. So it'd be nice
Zach?
to yeah, he was on the show for the very first episodes. Yeah, pretty cool guy. I love what he's doing with his shop, and actually kind of inspired me a lot too, which I've currently thought about possibly starting my own store. Don't know what that will look like. I kind of talked to Aesthetic Ants about this the other day, and he was like, good luck. Kind of like thinking about how it would go out with. I had a friend of mine from church was like, yeah, you should make like wood furniture, like the stuff that had to do with ants. I'm like, I don't think the community would want to spend like $200 to to like $500 on furniture that have to do with ants. Like, I think specific supplies and nests and stuff would be better, or merch like T-shirts and hats and stuff like that.
My only
I
question
looked into
is,
that with the
do we
printer
get a
price stuff.
discount because we're on your podcast?
For sure. However, I need to look at what like discounts and stuff will look like and what shipping would look like. I know
To
for
be honest,
like
when I looked into the print on demand services for like having sort of like cool T-shirts and stuff like that,
yeah
it looks good, and then you start looking at all the hidden payments for them
Yeah.
to like check that in, and it suddenly becomes like, you know, you're then selling a T-shirt for 40 quid because it's the only way you're gonna make £2 profit, and it's like, what's the point?
yeah
Yeah, and the
Once you buy
quality
a
is
T-shirt-
not great usually.
yeah. So what I want to do is I thought about like printing a hat because I'm a hat guy. I like to wear hats and just put my logo on it and just like roll with it and kind of see like what conversations I can get out of it, because normally when I'm like whenever I'm hanging out with friends and they notice that I have a hat on, they'll be like, "Oh, that's a cool hat," or whatever, or we'll like talk about what I'm wearing or whatever. But if
I
I'm
find hats
wearing,
quite big in America, especially the trucker hat fad. Like you guys like your hats.
yeah, we do like our hats. Like I saw a guy today at the store. He was wearing a cowboy hat. I was like, "Dude, that's a nice hat." Like
Texan hats are awesome, man.
yeah. So like I thought about like printing a black baseball cap and put my logo on it and just roll with it and kind of just
That'd
see
be sick.
and just kind of see what like people respond to it and be like, "Oh, that's a cool hat. What's Formicast?" And I can explain, be like, "It's a podcast I do about ant keeping," and then that would open the discussion about ant keeping, and boom, there you go. Like, it's perfect. So it's something I thought about. Like a friend of mine was like, "Yeah, you should do wood furniture." Talk to like, I don't want to go into talking to like Chinese market and like purchasing stuff from China. I'm totally against that.
If you look at like the Printify stuff, what they do is they have printers which are sort of local to you, so you select the locations that you want to thing, and then they contract that out. But then that's where their quality is all over the place, because if you get a rubbish retailer that's taking on that contract and their goods aren't good,
right?
Then you know they're sending out to your customer, and let's say you've clicked Japan, and the guy in Japan wants your hat, but his hat comes crap. But the guy in America, they've got really good stitching, and you know his hat's really cool. You're always gonna have to deal with those problems, I find, when it comes to these.
So like I thought about doing like a Patreon. Like I've tried doing a Patreon before on the other show, on the Tenfo podcast, and like no one really signed up. But like I thought about it and be like, hey, if I do this and I do giveaways, like I did a giveaway before with Utah Ant Shop, and we had like a little bit of a issue sending it to Canada because I don't know, Canadians and their border is a bit weird. But I was thinking about it. I was like, if I did a giveaway, I can give away hats or T-shirts with the logo on them, and for you guys that have listened to my show, I butcher names when it comes to ant names. Like I'm really bad at it.
Me too.
So it's
I
like
think everyone does to an extent.
everyone
Oh, I
does.
remember Ansel doing his videos.
Right.
Oh god.
But like the funny thing is, like, it's the comedy of the show, and I can use that. Like I can use that as like merch, like mispronounce Camponatus, and like use like, you know, basically just like use the point of using that as like part of the merch, like put
Yeah, great way to promote the ant keeping. Just write everything wrong.
I mean, if it works, it works, right?
People think we're gonna be retarded. Formicast.
But I'm sure you guys get the point. But before we close
Hey guys,
out,
I'm trying my Marmicias.
what was that?
You want to see my Lysias?
But yeah, so we're about to close, but I did notice we did
Can
have
I get my question up beforehand?
Yes, go ahead.
The same one I asked yesterday. I just want to see what everyone else answers here.
Yep.
Is what's your biggest goal or dream to achieve through your channel?
Reach 1K.
1K. Got it. I've done that on my podcast already. 1.1 thousand. Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Awesome, man.
Stop flexing on me.
What about you guys? Do you have like an ultimate dream? Like just think big. Like what if
I mean,
like say it's
if I was
all
gonna
rolling
be-
in, you know, you got all that. What would you do?
If I was going to be completely honest, I guess my goal would be to get my hobby to pay for itself. I mean, that would be awesome, because it would be like I spend a lot of money on ants, I spend a lot of money on products and stuff, and if I could get it to pay for itself, a hobby that pays for itself would be awesome. I think that would be my goal for my channel, but I don't think it's very realistic, to be honest.
Hearing everyone's answers, I'm starting to think I'm reaching for the stars.
Well, you're starting to get paid now through your channel now, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, don't you get like a revenue now?
Oh
No.
no, it's so hard to get a
No,
revenue
no.
in
You
YouTube.
have to have 4,000 watch hours.
The
which is,
the
like,
1,000
good.
subscribers is the
4,000?
easiest part.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
on top of 1,000 subscribers, you have to have 4,000 watch hours. Now, my lifetime watch
Over
hours
any
are
12-month period as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So you got to have it within a year. So
And that's
they've made
floating.
it. They've pushed the boat out so far. It's impossible. But they're trying to promote that thing now, where basically your subscribers pay you through like kind of like the Twitch stream service. They give
Right.
you tips rather than YouTube paying you.
I think
through
this is
ad
a
revenue.
great time for me
Yeah.
to Ant Senate. I'd like you all to join, and I promise I'll put your name up. On
But
the
you can
screen for
only do
longer
that
than
once
half
you
a
hit
second.
10,000 subscribers. So then
Oh,
by then
really?
you should have, yeah, you need 10,000
I've got
subscribers
my
to
dream, man.
activate the memberships.
My dream is to
Wow.
open up an ant zoo and to start doing conservation efforts for
That's
certain
really
ants.
cool. I like
you know,
that.
like educational programs and stuff like that. Like I'm currently working on a project which I've had going for the last year. I've got sort of like a 2-year thing to have it out there and pushed out, which is the Ant Life project. So part of that is to have a specialist setup that's created to be able to follow a colony live the whole way through their life kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then run educational programs off that. I've been speaking to a local zoo, Paradise Wildlife Park. I've actually been meaning to get back into contact with them because due to COVID, I sort of gave it a break. But been speaking to them about doing stuff with them, which will be quite amazing. And again, my ultimate dream would be if it ever took off, I'd love to just open up an ant zoo and sort of really get more and more people into it.
Yeah,
That
for
would be
sure.
uber cool.
That'd be amazing.
Uber cool. That.
My dream eventually is to have a store of my own, and like, kind of like have a pet store, but like insects. I think that'd be sweet. But I have to like overcome a lot of fears when it comes to insects, other than ants.
So that's
You
where
could
you
have, like,
hire your
mantis and
staff to
everything.
do it for you, man.
Yeah. Kind of like take the advice about like falling into a nest of red fire ants and get stung just for the purpose of it.
How about JB? JB's been uber quiet. Not JB. KB. What's your thoughts, mate?
On what? On my dreams?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Probably similar to you, like for it to pay for the hobby sort of thing.
Pay for itself. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably my sort of end game that I want to happen.
Nice.
Don't think it will, but you never know.
Right.
It's not a cheap hobby, is it? To be honest.
No.
Think
No,
about
not at all.
ants
I mean,
ants to
well, you
loan
can do it for
fortune.
free, right? I mean, go fishing, and you know how much fishing equipment you need to buy, and
Exactly.
that is a hobby that doesn't pay for itself. Well, you can make a fishing channel, of course, but there are millions out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I do speed cycling. I had to buy a €1,000 bike. Yeah, well, that's not an easy hobby to get into. I mean, I can buy many nests for for that amount of money. So yeah, it's just how much you want to put in. I guess that's with
Yeah, look,
every hobby.
I think to be content creators, you start looking into the equipment that you need to start professionally filming, and sort of. I think all of us have that dream of having that penultimate quality. Like I love watching Ant Oliver's channel where he's using the sort of macro lens and the DSLR and the quality of his footage. That's always been. My
He's
dream.
rich. He's big.
You know, and that's what I'm saving
He's
for
not.
at the moment. Like I got my first piece of hardware, which is the mic. You know, now I'm saving up to get the macro lens. You know, it's kind of like there is that aspect of when you start adding that up, it runs into triple figures. So
I'll just stick to my iPhone XS. excess. That's
It's
what
fine.
causes, isn't it?
It's fine for what you want to show.
I'm just
Usually.
cheap.
All right, folks, let's go ahead and wrap up. Let's go ahead and take a second to plug your social media. Colonius, go ahead and plug your social media.
Okay, yep. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok, but I don't post as much as I should on TikTok because it confuses the crap out of me. I'm just an old dinosaur that's trying to use technology. But not only that, but please also check out the Colonial Antcast, and I promise you that this episode 3 will be appearing now
Sweet.
that I have a file that I can edit.
Sweet,
I'm
sounds
waiting.
good. And I call dibs on episode 4.
Great timing, man.
All right, KB Ants, go ahead and plug your social media.
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, searching KB Ants.
Cool. All right, go ahead, Hood.
Well, gosh, I'm on. I'll start again. I'm on YouTube as Ants Hood, Instagram, and Facebook. I've got a group of my own Facebook, thingamajiggy. But generally speaking, find me on Instagram because I harass people on there, or people harass me on there, and I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. Yeah, cool. Cheers.
Sweet. And go ahead, Ann Hollifer.
Yeah, like the other guys, you can find me at And Hollifer on YouTube, And Hollifer on Instagram, on Facebook as well, but I only really repost my Instagram on Facebook. And well as JB, I use TikTok once every month or so should use it a bit more, but it's not really my style. But mainly just
you posted
Instagram
videos
and
of you
YouTube.
twerking.
Not
If you're
this
not
one,
posting
not this
videos
one.
of
That was
twerking, I'm
last.
not interested.
I didn't know you knew that channel. I gotta get that private, I think.
I just noticed that someone changed Aesthetic Ants' nickname to Aesthetic Formicast.
Nice, right? That's nice.
Oh, was that? No, that wasn't me. That had to be Darker.
That was not me. I'm like
I did it
doing
myself.
I'm doing like 8
Yeah,
different
okay,
things
I
at
was about
once
to
right
say.
now. All right, folks. Thank you for checking out the live show, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Formicast out.